Hi, my name is Kaylee Ford. Reading Understanding Poverty by Ruby Payne was extremely eye-opening. Before reading this book, I associated poverty with just money, and it's so much more than just money. It's more about relationships and resources. Um, the resources obviously could be more easily accessible if the people were to have money, but that doesn't mean that if these people that live in poverty had more money, that they would actually spend the money that they had in the correct ways that helped them gain these resources. Um, the book mentioned a story about a school district that had a student going there, and the school district raised funds in order to buy this family a new fridge. They had went months without a fridge, and so the family thought, or the school district thought, that they would provide the funds for this family to have a fridge. They bought the fridge for the family, and then within the next week, the student was gone for about a week or so. When the student got returned to school, they asked where the student had been, and the student's family had went on a camping trip. They had used the funds from the sale of that fridge in order to go on this family trip. That's just an example of what people in poverty sometimes think of now, that going on a trip right now would be fun. They don't look into the future of, how am I going to keep my food cool for my family? How am I going to feed my family? They think of more of right now. Another thing that people in poverty also do is they don't save their money. They're not used to having any extra money. And they think that if they are going to need that money, if they're going to need help in the future, then they need to help out their friends now. So if their friend, Billy Bob, needs their last $50, this family may loan that last $50 to that other person, hoping that in turn, if they ever need help, they'll help back. Um, Poverty is any lifestyle, really, any social class that you're in. You're kind of stuck in it until you find advances such as, a talent that will help you make money, or a skill that will help you make money to move up to the next class level, or a relationship that can teach you how to go into that next class level. Or if you just have such a dream and a desire to get out of this specific class that they're in. People in poverty have a different dialect. They speak more casual dialect. Um, Usually this is that they beat around the bush, per se, where they might start with the story at the end. So they might say that what happens at the end, and then lead up to, and then add in multiple details leading up to that, instead of just saying the whole story through. It just becomes a long conversation, long drawn out conversation. Um, that I Poverty is such a hard life, it seems like, by this book, that physical fighting is common, drugs, alcohol, all this stuff is so common. After reading chapter 1 and seeing the different case studies, I just can't believe how much some students have to go through. Not just students, how much some adults have to go through. Um, Having both your parents put in jail, having to raise your siblings at the age of 14 or whatever they are. It's just crazy that it makes you think that, well, no wonder some of these people put school on the back burner, that providing for their family and for trying to figure out where their next meal can come from is so much more important than, learning about the Pythagorean theory in school, which they think will maybe never have any real meaning in their life. Another thing is the parents may be in jail, like I mentioned earlier, or just working long hours. I know my dad throughout high school always worked nights, and he was a single dad, so there was nights when I was at home with my siblings alone. And how do you get your paper signed, or how do you get homework help? Where I think that's where I made my brochure about, was more about how to help these students, how to make exceptions, but not make them think that you're pitying them. I think it's so important to form that relationship. And so you know how to interact with them, and you know the ways to motivate them and the ways to discipline them. That sometimes, it was also mentioned in the book, giving them 45 minutes at the end of the day as, a study hall where you can get that homework help, or you can ask questions, or you can help them with those kind of things, or, requiring their entire class to have a paper signed by their teacher by the next day sometimes isn't always feasible. How if your parent's gone, how do you have them sign a paper for you? So making exceptions about those kind of things. Um, and like I said, you don't have to excuse them from the assignments. You don't have to give them a free pass. Don't make them feel sorry for themselves, but simply just, helping them out, realizing that they might have a tough life and they might need help. Uh, and then another thing that I also liked the idea was putting the discipline in their hands. Let them realize their own mistakes and figure out what they can do differently next time to avoid it. I think that this will help tremendously outside of the classroom as well, where if they're on the street and they're about to make a choice, they can think back to themselves, why am I going to do this? And what can I do differently instead? And that's why I added that little insert at the bottom of my brochure. There was a little questionnaire that was kind of included in the book saying what you did so that the student can write out exactly what they did wrong. And then you can ask them, when they did that, what did you learn? Like, what did you want? Sorry. What kind of outcome did you want from doing that? And then the next question would be list some things that you could have done instead to achieve that same outcome. So, instead of getting mad and punching your friend because he didn't answer your question, what could you have done instead? How could you have got his attention better instead of just punching him, and then the last question could be, what will you do next time? What is a better option? When you're put in this exact same situation again, what's a better option? I just think that my biggest thing that I took away from reading this Ruby Payne book was that, have some compassion, think about their home life and what they're going through and try to help them out. But also at the same time, make sure you're bettering their future. Don't just pity them. They might not think that, having their parents work at night and getting to be the responsible one is such a bad thing. So, don't just pity them. Also, encourage them to keep doing what they're doing and just help whenever you can, but don't overstep your boundaries.